Alright, in this lesson I'm going to be showing you guys how to use our primary camera that we use in TV Studio here in 2023, and that is our Canon XA11. We actually have two of these cameras. They're the highest quality cameras that we have, and they also are the ones that we use primarily for everything. While I'm zoomed out here and you see the full shot here, I'll show you what the entire camera looks like. It is sitting on a tripod right now, so I'm able to spin it around, obviously. A couple pieces of information that I can tell you about the camera right here as you see it on the tripod is, one, both of our cameras are broken in certain ways. And the first way they're broken is this thing. This is called, the top piece here is called the rocker. Our rockers are broken on both cameras. The one that I'm recording on right now is also broken. This one, you cannot lift these cameras for the rockers, especially if they're on the tripod. The tripod has a little bit of weight to it. If you lift it from the rocker, it's going to break it further. And also, when you have it off of a tripod, you should also not lift it by its rocker. You should always carry it by its body or by the hand strap. So please make sure that you are doing that. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the camera now and show you some things about this particular camera. Okay, first and foremost, the first thing that you need to do if you're going to be able to power this camera on and use it is put a battery in. In our last video, I did show you how to put a battery in. Our batteries are on our charging station, which is right over here at this table currently. Charging station could move over time, but you take it to where the teeth of this thing, and I call the teeth these grooves right here that you see. This is what I'm calling the teeth. Take it, put it in the back of the camera, slide it up. Now this thing has battery. So I guess the first thing I should show you is how do you power this thing on. So first off, you have a slider here on the side of the camera. If it is in the middle, it is off. If it is to the front, the camera is on and you're ready to record. If it is slid to media, that is how you check the videos or the files that you have saved on the SD card that is in the camera. So first off, I'm just going to go ahead and slide it over to camera. Before we actually look at the screen and what's going on, I'm going to flip over to this side and show you the controls that we have here. This is our fast zoom. So this is going to let you zoom in very quickly. If you're doing a live feed, sometimes zooming in quickly is really hard visually for somebody to watch if they're actually watching this camera. So you have also a fine zoom right here on top on the rocker. This is going to slowly zoom in and out so you don't have to see that, that really jerking type of zoom in. Also, we have three things on here on the side. In TV Studio right now, I'm currently not teaching anyone how to shoot in manual. And if the camera is ever looking incredibly weird, like this does not look right, it's probably because this has been switched to another setting. If you switch it to manual, I haven't shown you how to shoot manual yet. You have to understand lighting. You have to understand all kinds of different things if you're shooting in manual. So manual is not something you're ever going to use. Cinema is going to look really weird. So you always need to make sure that you are on auto. If this is not on auto and you haven't been taught otherwise, then you need to leave it on auto. It needs to always stay on auto. That's the first big thing that you need to know. Going back over to this side. So now that the camera's on, the viewfinder works whenever you are not having the screen open. So if I want to shoot with a viewfinder, the viewfinder does extend. So if I grab the sides of it here, it will come out. You can actually even tilt it up to you if you want to look through the viewfinder. Some people don't like using the viewfinder at all. They like using the screen to see what it is they're looking at. So once the screen's out, we have several different things here that we are looking at. Before I get to the screen, let's look on here. You can't save any video if you don't have an SD card in the camera. So what slot do you put it in, slot A or B? Also, the SD card has a slider here. So when the SD card is in there, this slide needs to be down or the screen will prompt you to put it down. So I'm going to slide it up. I've actually got an SD card right here. So I'm going to grab the SD card. SD card goes with the teeth of the SD card. I'm going to use this as the teeth. It is facing the back of the camera. So it goes into the slot just like this. Push it in. It's spring loaded. So when I'm ready to take it out, I just push it and it comes out. I push it in, it locks. Push it, it comes out. Once it's in, I slide the door down and now I'm actually ready to record. I had one student one time that took one of the cameras and this infrared button got switched. it needs to be on off, unless you're actually wanting to shoot in black and white. If I slip that down, you're going to see that the camera goes to black and white. If I don't want to shoot in black and white, then I leave it up and not on infrared. Okay? Buttons back here, if I hit battery info, it's going to tell me battery info on the screen. And if I want all of this info to go away on the screen, so like when I look on the screen right now, there's all that info. If I push that button, watch what it does to the screen. It gets rid of all of it. So it is to where it's completely clean and I don't have any of that display information. Typically I'll leave that button on because that display information is important to me. Now know that that information is not going to be in the actual video that you record. That's just on the screen so you can see what's going on. I've never actually even used this button right here. If I click it right now, oh, all that does is, actually I have no idea. I guess just don't click that button for right now. So obviously we don't have a purpose for that button right now. So moving on. Let's go back what's on this screen now. There's a lot of really important information. Starting at the top, this tells you how much battery life your battery has. Below that 8 hours and 4 minutes, that's how much recording time that you have on the SD card that is in your camera. And those are going to be the main things, guys. I'm not really even going to mess with like what the functions are and things like that, because for just standard what we're doing in class, we're going to use the standard settings. You don't need to change anything. Okay? Now let's talk about how do you actually record on this thing. How do you record? Well, there's a button right here. If you click that, it's going to start a recording. Also, you should always know that if you start a recording, you're always going to see that the red light on the front is on. This is common with basically all video cameras. You know you're being recorded if the red light is on. If the red light is not on, it is not recording. Do not film an entire interview and then look up and realize that red light's not on because, well, you didn't film anything. So, another place you could record from, there's a red light button right up here. So you could start and stop your recording here. This does have a dial, so if you don't want that to actually accidentally get bumped, you could lock it to where it's not going to accidentally start recording. And now, probably one of the most important parts of this video that I definitely need you guys to know is how to use this rocker. Well, what is the point of this rocker? Well, the rocker's point is for using a microphone. You decide if you want to use a microphone or not. Right now, if I look at the screen, it is currently set up to use a microphone. I know it's set up to use a microphone because down here in the bottom left, you see the inputs. If you do not want to use a microphone, and you just want it to use its internal microphone, then you need to make sure that that is not there. Because right now, if I hit record on this, it's not going to get any of the things that I'm saying because it's thinking that there's a corded microphone hooked up, and quite clearly right now, there is not. So if you hit record thinking you're going to get audio and this is on the screen, you are getting no audio at all. How do you get that to go away? Well, right now, this is the rocker. The other side of this is where you plug microphones into, which I'll show you in just a second. But right now, it's on. So what it's telling the camera is that it is getting audio from the rocker. Well, nothing's plugged into the rocker. So that doesn't make any sense. It can't get audio from the rocker. So right now, if I hit record, it's recording a silent video. Now, if I hit off, what that is now telling it is that I am not using the rocker. I am using the microphones that are built into the camera. And what you'll see is now, since I hit off, that little section down here is no longer here. So if I hit record on this camera now, it's going to be hearing all the same things that I'm saying right now. I'm using a camera that looks exactly like this to record the video you're watching, and I am using the internal microphone. I'm not actually holding a microphone, so you can get audio without holding a microphone. Now let's talk about what this stuff means. You're going to notice that it's split into basically two things. The top it says input 1, the bottom it says input 2. So this is for two different microphones. So if I'm just using a microphone, if I hit on, I'm using a microphone, and I'm just using channel 1, then the only things that are important are the things that are on the top. Starting over here on the left, line mic or 48 volt. You have two choices really. If you're just using a regular microphone, you just leave it on mic. Now, some of our microphones could take what's called phantom power, meaning the microphone needs actual power. If you need to send power to that microphone, then you would go over to plus 48 volts, because that's giving power to the microphone. Generally, we're just using a standard microphone. The microphone that's used for the weekly newscast that Grace uses this year, which is this microphone, it does not take phantom power. If I am using this microphone, or even the microphones that Ayla and Anya use, which are these, if I'm using those microphones, then this needs to be on just mic. Just mic. In fact, I think I only have one microphone that requires 48, which is called phantom power, and that microphone is actually in my office, which Jaden Zeltz uses for recording. Next, this needs to be on auto as well. We're not doing manual anything because that's more that I would have to teach you, and I don't have time for that right now. So unless you get a video later on that shows you advanced usage of the camera, you're going to leave that on auto. And then this right here, it really depends on how loud your speaker is. If they're really soft, then you might need to go higher to max. If they're a very loud speaker, then you might go and turn it down a little bit. Me personally, I project very loudly. Now, because I'm in a band, I know how microphones work really well. I know how to get what I want out of a microphone. But if you ever see a video where it's like, it sounds like it's clipping because it's too loud, it's probably because they were getting too much from the microphone and the person was talking too loudly. So, let's actually look at what this looks like now if I plug a microphone in. First off, to use a microphone, you have to have what's called a mic cable. Okay? You call this an XLR cable, or you can just call it a mic cable, whatever you want. This end right here that you're seeing, this goes into the microphone. So this goes into the microphone. So if I'm looking at this microphone right here, I need to put this end into the bottom of that microphone. So I will go ahead and do that real quick. I'll show you. See, line up, and bada bing, bada boom. Now this end is connected to the microphone. This is the other end of that cable. Now this end has to be connected to the camera. So basically that connects the microphone there to our camera over here. This gets plugged into the opposite side of the rocker that the controls were on. Now for this particular camera, I'm going to use input 1. You should always use input 1 unless you actually have two mics. Now I would actually try to not use two mics if I were you. And the reason why is because it records in left to right. So meaning one person talking will be in the left ear and one person will be in the right ear. That's not really good for a viewer. Now this does take a little bit of elbow grease. You'll hear it click whenever I get it in there. Sorry, I had to use my arm. But now it's in there. I heard the click. Now the microphone is good to go. Now if I slide this thing back around and I take a look at it, you can see down here in the bottom that the inputs are jumping a little bit. This means it's picking up my audio. Now what you want is you want your audio to be somewhere between these last two dots. If you can see on there, it's got a 10 and a 0. When your person is talking or using the microphone, you want them living in that range. You want the dots to be jumping up to about between somewhere in the 10 or the 0. If this bar is maxed out all the time, that's where you're going to get that clipping that does not sound good. So you want your microphone to be living between that 10 and that 0 range. As long as you're doing that, then you're good to go. If they're too loud, then you could come over here and adjust how much you're getting. Maybe I don't give them max. Maybe I slide this down a little bit towards the middle. And then also, if you're doing an interview, you should always prep the person who you are interviewing. Prep them and let them know, hey, this is about where you want to hold the microphone. You want it, a few inches away from the mouth. You want to talk into the microphone. Don't hold it at your chest. Don't hold it away from your body. And you want to kind of model for them the level of volume that you want them to speak at. So that is how you set up a microphone. Guys, you have to do student spotlights. You have to do teacher spotlights. You have to interview people in this class. That's part of the class. You need to know how to set up and use the camera on your own, and this is how you set up and use the camera and use a microphone. If you have any other questions about the camera, obviously things can pop up, but generally this should be able to get you to where you can go out and you could film any event, do any interview using this microphone. If you have questions, please make sure you ask me. That is the Canon XA11 walkthrough, number 1.